in the Redneck Garage. Well, I'm working on this ProAir unit for the back of my van, which is going to be super cool. Truthfully, the only weak point in the whole thing is the instructions, because there ain't none. Today I'm working on wiring, and hopefully by watching this you might have a little bit better clue. You got to think out of the box a little bit with the wiring. It's almost like kind of a universal type wiring kit for one that goes all the way to the back. I know that I'm going to need to make a few modifications for it, because I don't need 500 pounds of wire trying to jam it into one little spot. Now, what you get is a schematic. That's the only electronic instructions you get, basically, of how to wire this thing. And I ciphered on it for a while, and hopefully if you watch this video and you're doing the same kit, maybe you'll figure it out for a ProMaster, the easiest way to do it. From looking at the schematic, basically what you've got is 4 different harnesses. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you got your wiring that goes to the booster pump, the water valve, you know, all that stuff. But for the main part, you've got a relay harness. You've got the harness that goes up to the evaporator. You've got another power relay, and you got one underneath. So we're going to kind of be ciphering out where to plug everything in, and I'm going to be extending some wires and shortening some other ones, because the way that the harness goes, it's kind of a pain in the butt. I got the switches installed here, and you can see that they stop right here. And if I was designing this kit for the ProMaster, I would have them extend down and go ahead and come all the way down to here where they could junction in with the relays, but that's not what it is. So I'm probably going to cut these off, extend the wires, come down there, and then have them plug into the relays at the bottom. This step, where you take the step off, is really a good spot for all of the wiring to go, because you got a lip and you got some space in between that the step goes up on there. So that's pretty cool. Now they do label everything. This 940 relay harness right here is actually this relay harness up at the top, and it's got 940 relay harness, so you can kind of correspond up to the schematic, and it shows where all the wires go, but you do have to follow them and figure out exactly where they're going to go to. This is the 400 harness, which goes up all the way to the evaporator, and you can see that it might be just a little long for our use. So what I'm going to do is drill a hole in the back of that step with a grommet, run it through, and then I'll cut what I don't need off of it, and then put connectors back on it. But we're going to go right in about here. I'm going to look underneath to make sure, but we're going to put a grommet in there, run it through, and everything's going to terminate underneath this step. Alright, so here's my switches, and there's the lengthened wiring harness. So ProAir, the 831 harness needs to be longer. Alright, with the harness lengthened, it goes here, down, in these clips there, and then back underneath where all the connections are going to be made. So that's perfect. That came out nice. I was happy about that. Alright, so there's our switches. They look great. I'm happy about that. I'm happy about the wiring too. Holy crap. Alright, this turned out sweet. My first wiring harness ended up terminating right here. Those wires go to another wiring harness. Got my 2 relays mounted, and then there's 3 wires here that mount to something else. I don't know yet where it goes, but got the relays mounted on the wall. Looks great. This is the power relay. You can look on the thing and you can see 103F, and then if you look on the schematic, this is 103F, and it goes to the battery straight up. Connects up to one of the wires to the upper evaporator, and a yellow white goes down to the water valve in the booster pump. So I'm going to go ahead and mount these relays, and then we'll figure out where the wires go. Alright, it's looking pretty good. I got to get a vacuum, get all this metal shavings up, but I brought my wiring from the back here and cut it off because it's way too long. This is one of the wiring harnesses. Everything I should be able to tuck back in the back. And I made another hole right here, and that's going to be for the pump and the water valve. And that should be the rest of the wiring. Awesome. Alright, I got all the main wiring done. I still have to find an ignition switch underneath the dash, but there's a lot of extra wires, so I'm going to start cleaning some of this up. Okay, you have to have a hot ignition wire, so I just came off the back of the ignition. This is a blue wire with a red stripe. I just put a crimp-on connector there, splice it in. I'll go over the steering wheel and then back out. Alright, so I've got it routed. If everything's correct, this will be hot when I turn on the ignition. There we go. So now I can just put 2 connectors on and it is wired up. So I got to secure the line coming up there and tie wrap it underneath. And this is the pump and the valve, but I don't really want to hook those in yet because they don't need to run until I've got coolant in there. So basically, this thing is ready to test, and I think it looks really nice. I actually printed out, that's what wiring harness those three were, so I could trace the wires out, made sure I had everything right, got everything zipped up. I've got, this is the one, and this is the pump, valve, power wire. The other one is just a ground. So this one supplies power to the valve that allows coolant to go up top, and the pump that pushes it up there. So that's the only real wire that I have to connect with a ground. So let's see if it works. That will be, you know, a good thing. Everything looks pretty nice and neat. I got my power inverter installed. You can see that's the wire going up to it. There's a switch in the back here. Super cool. But so we'll see. AC. Oh yeah. And you can't see it, but at night these are illuminated just like the dash is. So basically you got off, AC and heat, and low, medium, and high. So we'll put it on AC. I can hear it. We'll go back in the back. Holy moly. I mean, that is a lot of air coming out of that unit. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's probably making noise on the thing. But I mean, it is unbelievable amount of air. So that's super cool. That's high. So now I can start zipping everything up, putting zip ties on, finish the drain, just minor stuff. It looks great. All right, so that's cool. I'll get underneath there and mount the pump and the heat valve. All right, so I was going to use my reclaimer, but it was already empty. Time to put on the block back there in the back where the lines are connected, and then put the two lines, put the fittings on those, hook it up, draw a vacuum, make sure there's no moisture in it, and charge it back up. Should take 3 pounds is what they said. All right, I had to take a 5mm and take the stud out because it's too short, and you replace it with this bolt here and a lock washer. Here's the block. It fits in there with the protrusions out in. 2 washers, lube them up with a little bit of mineral oil, and then carefully put it on there, and you should be ready to put the lines on. Alright, so I got the lines installed. It is still hot and sweaty out here, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go ahead and hook up my gauges and my vacuum pump and draw a vacuum on it, and we'll see if we got any leaks. Okay, see if you can see this. When you pull a vacuum, your needles should start moving backwards and pretty much bury themselves right here. So that's good. We're going to let this run for a few minutes. That's the old vacuum pump. I think I bought this about 20 years ago, and I've used it a million times, but it works great to get out any impurities, moisture, anything that's in the lines. That's what you're trying to get out. Open your valves up and let her crank down. Just let her run for a while. Make sure that everything is vacuumed out. Okay, it's time to charge it back up. Put 3 pounds of Freon back in it, so that would be 3 cans, right? No, there'd be 4 cans because this is 12 ounces. People think this is a pound, but it's not. It used to be a pound. Now they just short you. I'm using cans just so I know I can get 3 pounds in it. I added about 2 ounces of oil too. Forgot to tell you that. This thing's blowing like an Arctic breeze. Let's see what the temperature is. 44, 40, 39 degrees, man. It don't get much better than that. That's awesome. 37. So this is a high breeze, high wind. That feels good. We'll I think I'm gonna button it up tonight. Tomorrow I'll put the cover back on, do some wiring. We'll be driving this thing pretty soon, I think. Alright, I got everything installed. I actually had to take this bracket back off because I didn't listen close enough when Eric was telling me. And there's no instructions. Had to take it off, flip it around because one side was further in than the other. I thought it was a right or left thing, but it actually was a forward-backwards thing. So, got that straightened out. It looks really, really good. And I hacked and cracked on the cover, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, and that's what it looks like. I had to cut quite a bit off the bottom corners to make it fit. with the divider, and I put a screw in the center, and I'm going to caulk it around the top section, and it'll cover those little holes there. But I think for the most part it looks freaking awesome, and functionally the thing is a rock star, so this is a win. Let me tell you, that is some fine looking wiring. Absolutely is. You can see I siliconed, pulled this up, put a zip tie on it, and just siliconed around it so no water could get down in the tube. All the relays are nice and tight, wiring, and the step will just go right over that, so that's super cool. Here's the upper end. You've got your two AC hoses that are clamped on, then you've got your two T's that go in here, and I've got the sleeves that protect the heater hoses around that. It probably could have come up a little bit higher with that, but it's not touching anything, so who cares? Going back, it's not touching anything. Looks good, got it supported, got a bracket up at the top. So top end is done. Let's look underneath. Routed my lines across here. This one line goes to the booster pump, and it did a nice job just sitting right there. You got your booster pump here, which then goes to your heat valve, and then this one line joins the rest of them and goes up top. But that was kind of confusing because I didn't have any instructions at all on that. But I think it looks good. I had to find a place for this to go, and I did use an elbow that they sent to do a 90-degree turn right there. That was awesome. This is a line going down through the floor. Got it siliconed around that. Got zip ties and mounts all the way up. And I'm painting the shroud up on the top to match the cabinets, which looks really good. It's not completely dry yet. I'll yank the tape off when it's done, and looks super good. The wiring turned out excellent. You can't even tell that the wiring's underneath all in here. I also got all my inverter done, which is super cool. There'll be a video on that. But the switches look factory. They light up just same color as everything else when the truck is on. It's tied into the ignition, so that is super cool, and I'm like unbelievably happy with that. It's awesome. Here's a little video of it working. It's about 102 degrees outside, and it's about 72 in here, and it works great. That's with it painted gray. I'll step back so you can see it, but I am super happy with the way it works. It really does keep it comfortable back here. Alright, so I had to change my shirt because I laid in a glop of silicone underneath the truck, and it was just nasty. I think I ruined the shirt. Here's the time I give them a synopsis for the ProAir Kit for the Dodge Ram Promaster. I love the kit. I mean, I think that functionality goes, it will make a huge difference as far as like the winter, the summer when it gets really hot or really cold. The kit seems to just work flawlessly. I mean, it's just a rock star type thing. Now, difficulty level of putting it in, I guess it's going to depend on what you do. If you work at Camping World and you do van conversions and things like that, it'd be a 1. For me, I'd say it's like an 8. Some of it was relatively easy and other parts of it were more difficult. The most difficult thing for me was not having any instructions, no directions of step-by-step, here's how you do it. That made it a lot harder. Plus, I've got a divider in the back, so it's not like a stock, just open van. But for the most part, everything worked out fine. Had no instructions on the pump, where it mounts, how to mount it, the electric valve, nothing like that. So if you do get one of the kits, then, you know, take a look at where I mounted it. It worked out really well there. It kind of went right above that lip. That was awesome. The electrical was a challenge. I found that marking the relays and tracing the wires out made it much easier. This really isn't a plug-and-play kit. It's not every wire and every hose is exactly the length and you just put it up and you clamp it on. You got to do a lot of cutting. I cut out a ton of wires. Don't be afraid to do that. Just be sure to get some shrink wrap and crimp it on, and then shrink wrap the crap out of it. Shrink wrap it really well so it doesn't come apart, and that'll prevent you from having problems in the future with the electrical. But having the numbers up there and being able to trace the wires was much easier. As far as the look of the kit, I think it's just as good as Webesto or any of the other companies that make a kit. It looks really super nice, so I am tickled with it. The other night I turned it on and cranked it up, and this thing, it chilled the back of the van very nicely. I don't have to have the door open all the time, and you can kind of run either front or back air. I love that portion of it. Price-wise, I want to say the kit with shipping was around $1,600, $1,650, something like that, so it's a great value for the kit itself. you got a ton of equipment for that price compared to the $25,000 or $3,000 for a Webesto kit, which doesn't do any better than this one. Maybe this video will help you if you're doing the installation, and I are more than willing to answer any questions. Leave your comments and questions below. I love it. I'm going to wait for that to dry a little bit, put a couple more coats, and we're finished with the ProAir Dodge Ram. I guess it's not Dodge anymore, is it? Ram Promaster rear air tie-in kit. Love it. Thanks, Eric, and all the guys at ProMaster for your help on the stuff that I was really confused on. I figured it out. I'm David from the Redneck Garage. Keep turning wrenches.